You watched the 2022 World Cup final from your couch. Argentina and France traded punches for 2 hours. Messi lifted the trophy. You thought that was the biggest the game could ever get. You were wrong. In 2026, the tournament didn't just come back. It doubled in size, crossed 3 countries, and rewrote almost every rule you thought defined a World Cup. Start with the number that changes everything. Qatar 2022 had 32 teams. That number had stood in one form or another since 1998. Before that, it was 24. Before that, 16. Every expansion took years of debate. But 2026 didn't nudge the number up. It jumped it to 48 teams in a single leap. That's the largest single expansion in the tournament's history. More teams means more matches. Qatar 2022 had 64 games total. The 2026 tournament has 104. That's 40 more matches squeezed into a single summer. 40 more chances for an underdog to shock a giant. 40 more nights where a small footballing nation gets a stage it has never had before. But here's where it gets structurally strange. FIFA didn't just add more groups of 4 teams and call it done. They built something the World Cup has never used before. 12 groups of 4. Each team plays 3 group matches. The top 2 from every group move on automatically. Then, instead of stopping there, FIFA picks the 8 best third-place teams across all 12 groups and lets them in too. That gives you a full round of 32. A complete extra knockout round that didn't exist in 2022. Think about what that means for you, watching at home. In Qatar, a team could lose its final group match and be gone. In 2026, a team can finish 3rd in its group and still be alive. The margin for survival is wider. The drama doesn't end as early. And for the smaller nations who qualified for the first time, that extra round is the difference between one taste of the World Cup and a real run at it. Now look at where this is actually happening. Qatar 2022 took place entirely inside one small country. You could drive between most stadiums in under an hour. The whole tournament fit inside a bubble roughly the size of a single large city's metro area. The compactness was the headline. Fans could watch a match in the afternoon and be at a different stadium by evening. 2026 throws that compactness out completely. The United States, Mexico, and Canada are hosting together. It's the first time in World Cup history that 3 countries share the tournament. 16 host cities, 11 of them in the United States, 3 in Mexico, 2 in Canada. The distance between the westernmost venue and the easternmost venue spans almost the entire width of a continent. A fan following one team through the group stage could end up crossing international borders just to watch the same squad play 3 matches. FIFA tried to manage that scale by splitting the host cities into 3 regions. A western cluster linking the Pacific coast with Guadalajara. A central cluster anchoring the American heartland alongside Mexico's northern hosts. An eastern cluster running up the Atlantic coast from Miami to Toronto. Teams in the group stage mostly stay within one region, which softens the travel problem, but it's still nothing like the single-city footprint of Doha and its surrounding stadiums. Now think about the stadiums themselves, because the contrast is almost the opposite of what you'd expect. Qatar built almost everything from scratch. 7 of the 8 stadiums used in 2022 were brand new, constructed specifically for that tournament, in some cases air-conditioned from the ground up to fight the desert heat. It was a tournament built inside a controlled environment, engineered for the climate it was forced to exist in. 2026 doesn't need to build anything from nothing. Every single venue already existed before FIFA chose it. These are NFL stadiums, MLS stadiums, and a handful of grounds with decades of football history already built into them. Estadio Azteca in Mexico City is the headline example. It hosted World Cup matches in 1970 and in 1986. In 2026, it becomes the first stadium on Earth to host World Cup matches across 3 different tournaments. That's not a stadium built for this moment. That's a stadium that has outlived generations of players to be standing here again. Capacity tells its own story too. The largest stadium in Qatar held a little over 88,000 people for the final. The 2026 final will be played at MetLife Stadium, home of the New York Giants and Jets, with a capacity north of 82,000. Close in size, but reached completely differently. One was purpose-built for a single tournament, and may never see football at this scale again. The other already hosts Sunday football every single week of its existence, in a different code of the sport entirely. Climate flips too. Qatar 2022 was played in November and December specifically because the desert summer would have been unplayable for athletes. FIFA moved the entire global football.